You've managed and overseen properties that have received prestigious BOMA and ICSC awards. What does award-winning property management look like in practice?
I think it goes back to fundamentals, attention to detail, pride of ownership, whether you own it or manage it. Overarching, whether it's award-winning or not. I think, proactive management as opposed to reactive management. Try to foresee the problems that may arise and prepare for them as much as possible. And then I like to tell myself every day a little better. So like a mindset of continuous improvement.
What are some of those key quality traits that have gotten you to where you are today?
Maybe it's more for me, but it just calm under pressure. Things happen constantly, and there's days where not much happens, and then there's days where everything you could possibly think of happens in one of your buildings, and you have to kind of take a step back and remain calm in those circumstances and direct what needs to happen. I think is a key ingredient for a successful property manager.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jared Sarbit, and this is Mastering Property Management. Today, I have the honor and privilege of having Justin Deknatel on, the Senior Vice President of Property Management with Warrington PCI Management. Justin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and good job on my last name. Not everybody
thank you. Thank you. I practiced it. Thank you. I practiced a few times before we got on. So, yeah, awesome. So, Justin, let's get right into it. To start off, tell us about Warrington PCI Management. What types of properties you manage, the scale of your portfolio, and what makes the company unique in the Western Canadian market?
Yeah, WPM is BC's largest commercial property manager. We have, it changes from time to time, but call it just over 16 million square feet of property under management. And that's through most asset classes. So we have a big chunk in industrial and office, a couple of million square feet in retail, and then about 1 million square feet in residential, which equates to, residential isn't really talking square feet, but it equates to about 1,500 doors.
Okay, great. And you're only in BC, or is it?
We're only in BC, so definitely a lot of a local knowledge, but with a large institutional quality platform behind it.
Incredible. Great. A little bit about yourself. You've led property management operations teams for over 25 years across REITs, developers, national platforms like Bentel Kennedy and Oxford Properties. Looking back, tell me about your journey and the key milestones along the way.
Yeah, like I think 99% of property managers, I fell into this industry. I've since figured out that there is not a single soul on earth who says, I want to be a property manager when I grow up. And just through, I had to find a co-op placement, and, through a family connection, knew somebody who owned a mall, and I got hired over the phone. And I was a marketing assistant for a while for Saint Laurent Shopping Center in Ottawa a long time ago. And helped with their grand reopening after redevelopment. And that launched my career, if you will. From there, got into specialty leasing for a while, and then got into property management, and just kind of kept growing, and I have to be honest, moved a lot in those days from, place to place to place to, take the next opportunity that was available. And worked on the retail side mostly in the beginning, shopping centers, and then strip centers, and then portfolios of retail properties, all the way up to a national portfolio of retail properties. And that took care of sort of the first 18, 19 years. And then I decided that I wanted to get exposure to other asset classes beyond just retail. Moved to Vancouver, started with a local developer here, and really got a lot of experience and exposure to office, industrial, mixed use, self-storage, residential. And then this opportunity came up I started about, call it 9 months ago. And, this is, as I said, BC's largest property management company, a large, strong portfolio with many different types of owners. And it's really been a great 9 months so far.
That's amazing. Wow. You're absolutely right. And I think you're right. It might even be 100% of people fall into property management. It's every episode is the same thing over and over again. But the other trend that I also see is that those with the right characteristics seem to really excel in the industry. What are some of those, key quality traits that Justin upholds that you've carried along the way that have gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah, I think if you want to be successful in property management, you have to be comfortable with being a generalist and know enough about everything to be dangerous, I guess. Because you end up being a specialist in nothing other than, property management, but it's such a wide-ranging job. So, curiosity is up there for me. And even what I look for in the property managers that we take on, are you curious? Do you want to learn? Do you want to figure out why things are happening a certain way or how things work? That's high on my list. And then, empathy and communication. We're and especially in the third-party property management business, we're in the service business. Real estate happens to be the product, but we're in the service business. We have clients to make happy. We have tenants to make happy. We have residents to make happy, and we have customers to make happy. And we need to have that sense of empathy and strong communication to work well at the service level. Accountability and consistency, I think, is a hallmark for successful property managers. Own your property, own your portfolio, and be consistent in what you deliver. Live up to your obligations and do what you say and say what you do. Lastly, maybe it's more for me, but it just calm under pressure. Things happen constantly, and there's days where not much happens, and then there's days where everything you could possibly think of happens in one of your buildings, and you have to prepare for it, and then you have to manage through it. And being able to kind of take a step back and remain calm in those circumstances and direct what needs to happen, I think is a key ingredient for a successful property manager. And then the last one, I think, is mentorship. Find leaders around you and spend time with them. Take them for a coffee or ask to go for lunch or have a beer after work or whatever your version of that is, and reach out. Most of us love talking about what we do and love bringing up other people in this industry, and reach out.
That's amazing. So those are some great answers. How big of a team do you run in BC?
My team in total is about 140, 150 people.
Wow.
From from VPs to directors to property managers to building operators, mobile operators, and everything in between. So it's a sizable group.
Amazing. I really liked your point about staying calm, taking a step back. Is I imagine in your position, overseeing a lot of property managers, you can see all sorts of problems coming to you, and they may be stressed out. But if you're this solid kind of place that they can come to and feel safe and secure and can truly get results, not just panic from you as a leader, I imagine that's a pretty powerful thing for them.
Yeah, I would hope so. I also strongly believe in that we have to allow people to make mistakes. So I sort of see my job and the jobs of the immediate leaders underneath me is to put guardrails around the possible mistakes people can make. Because what I think, if we're all honest with ourselves and we think about all the lessons we've learned in life, none of them have been because somebody told us do it this way, do it that way, or careful for this. It's because we made mistakes and we had to fix the mistakes that we made. And I believe that's true in life, and I believe that's true in business. We just have to make sure that the mistakes aren't terminal and that there's room for people to grow from the mistakes that they make.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah, the greatest lessons are truly in our failures, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I usually say it a bit more crudely, but we learn from getting punched in the face and then having to figure out how to get up and not get punched in the face again.
Exactly. No, couldn't be more true. If you can give me just 30 seconds of your time. First off, thank you for tuning in to the Mastering Property Management podcast. We truly appreciate you spending your time with us. This show is proudly sponsored by Picture Perfect Cleaning, where we believe in creating spaces that smile. If you're enjoying the insights here, I'd love for you to dive in a little deeper. We've put together a blog called 8 Common Themes in Property Management Leadership. It's packed with lessons we've gathered from top leaders in the industry. The link is included in the show notes for this episode. And while you're there, feel free to browse our website. See how Picture Perfect Cleaning supports property managers like you every day. Thanks again for listening. And now let's get back to the show. You've built and led teams through major transitions as well, including internalizing property management at National REIT. What lessons did that experience teach you about change management and building a strong organizational culture?
I think the biggest issue is explaining the why. I think nobody really loves change. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I like change," and there's not many people who truly like change. And especially as we get older, we all sort of get set in our ways of doing things. So I think being able to explain why a change is taking place is a first key step in creating buy-in, and then be transparent and consistent with your communication. Lay out the steps, lay out why the steps are getting taken that way, and then it's ensuring that the strategy comes first, and the changes in the process follows the strategy, and the structure follows the strategy, and not the other way around. And then celebrate success, celebrate early success, get the buy-in, get a party going when the first couple of steps happen, and create excitement around that change. And does it always work and is it always successful? No, but you certainly increase your odds of making it successful.
Yeah, those are the wise words right there. Thank you for that. I love the why. It starts with that. Have you read Simon Sinek's? Maybe that'll be your recommendation at the end. But
Well,
the why, I can't remember what it's called, but why, or getting to why, or whatever it's called. But that is so critical, and that makes so much sense when you're making a drastic change in the organization. Awesome. Warrington PCI is guided by the principles of people, process, and property. How do those three pillars show up in the way you lead teams and deliver value for clients?
On the people side, we are very much a people first company. We take good care of the people that work for us. Work-life balance is important. We understand the life of a property manager and the job that a property manager does, and all the way up to the president of the company. We've been property managers. We know the pressure that's on them, and we celebrate that, and we help protect them from the other influences around that, because quite frankly, in many other companies, the property management team, I like to say, are sometimes the whipping people of the company. We're not the ones celebrating this great new lease deal that got done, or this great new development, or this wonderful acquisition or disposition with all this financial success that flows. We're the guys that say, hey, you know what? That roof's getting really old and it's going to be a couple of $1 million to fix it. So we tend to bring that news. So we really support the property managers here in understanding what they do. So that's sort of the people side. So it's, recruiting, training, and then empowering the team to take ownership of their buildings. And as I mentioned earlier, creating an environment where they can make a mistake and learn from those mistakes instead of, the finger pointing after a mistake. We sit down and talk through what happened, and then, walk me through your reasoning, explain how we got to this decision, and then we can have a conversation around that. Process, we leverage our standardizing systems as much as we can. So that's, we use a vendor PM as a procurement platform and a bid platform and a contract management platform. We use Yardi integrations. So we try and standardize the process as much as possible. So we have a solid product that is replicable and replicated, and we have strong governance in place, which our clients certainly demand. And then properties, the fundamental of what we do and the service we deliver is, understand the asset, understand the preventative maintenance that's required, understand the capital planning, and most importantly, understand the client's objective for the asset. What is it that we're trying to accomplish? Because management changes based on what the objective of the client is. So always keep that in mind and reach out to the client and have those discussions. So that way we create alignment between our client expectations and team accountability.
Great answer. Thank you very much. That summarizes very well the people, process, and property. Thank you. The company also emphasizes community, sustainability, and inclusion as core values. How is Warrington PCI integrating these into the property management practices and client relationships?
We engage with the local community as much as we can, and whether that's through charitable organizations or BIAs or local community groups, and we do that both on the commercial side and the residential side. And we see it strongly on the residential side, where a sense of community and a sense of belonging really plays into resident satisfaction. But in all honesty, I think we're seeing that more and more on the office side and in commercial real estate as well. People want to feel a sense of belonging and community in their place of work, in their place of employment. And it doesn't really matter which asset sector you're in. People want to feel that sense of belonging. So we try and work through that as much as we can, and align ourselves with charitable partners that help with that as well. And then, we integrate our ESG goals into day-to-day operations, and try and minimize our carbon footprints and be leaders in those efforts. And quite frankly, there's two benefits. You're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and our carbon footprint, but 9 out of 10 times you're reducing operating costs as well doing it. Yes, there's the ESG angle, but there's also just a good property management and fiscal responsibility angle to that. We encourage supplier diversity and responsible procurement through our procurement platform, and we promote inclusion internally. We ensure every team member has a voice, everybody is heard, everybody has an opportunity to speak up, and nobody in this company is more important than anybody else. We all have a job to do, and the only way we're successful as a company is if everybody does their job well. And honestly, it doesn't matter what job it is. We all have our role to play.
Beautiful. Sounds like a great culture to be a part of. That's really nice to hear. Um, you mentioned that you've moved around a bit. You said you were in Ontario. Is BC even more sensitive to the sustainability component than most provinces? You say, like I know that there's a lot of emphasis on environment in that province. Do you find that that's higher value there?
I'm not sure. I think a lot of it is driven by ownership. Yes, Vancouver as a city can be pretty proactive in some of their bylaws and the building step codes and the requirements that the city has. But that's only one of the many, many municipalities in the Lower Mainland and BC. I still think that a lot of it is driven by ownership, and institutional clients are much more aware of that than some of our smaller high net worth clients are sometimes. But it behooves us as a service provider to be part of the education around that as well, and make the proper recommendations.
Excellent. Makes sense. Makes sense. You've managed and overseen properties that have received prestigious BOMA and ICSC awards. What does award-winning property management look like in practice? What separates good operations from truly exceptional ones?
Yeah, I feel that's changed a bit over the years too. In the early years, it was truly about strong property management and establishing those processes. And now it's almost become an industry in itself a little bit. But I think it goes back to fundamentals: attention to detail, pride of ownership, whether you own it or manage it. I very much talk a lot with my team around having an ownership mentality and managing these properties on our clients' behalf as if it was your own property. Um, but overarching, whether it's award winning or not, I think proactive management as opposed to reactive management. Try to foresee the problems that may arise and prepare for them as much as possible. Is a big chunk of good, strong property management. And then I like to tell myself every day a little better. So like a mindset of continuous improvement, right? Okay, so we do it like this today, but can we do it better tomorrow? Is there a better way of doing this? And now more and more is the availability of data. So use the data that we have to make decisions and see if we can improve our processes and our policies and our procedures. So again, overarching, be proactive, understand the building, and then try and do it a little better every single day.
I love that. I love the improvement every day, and now you actually have data that can back that improvement up too, with key metrics and KPIs. You can actually truly know, are you really getting better? That's really good, really good. As you mentioned, you have about 16 million square feet under management. How does Warrington PCI maintain consistency and quality across such a large and diverse portfolio?
Yeah, it comes down to centralized systems. So our compliance, our YARDI, our procurement, but then we balance it with decentralized autonomy, if you will. Our property managers and the regional portfolio level leaders above them have decision-making authority. They're the ones on the ground. They're the ones who understand their building the most. So as long as it maintains within our centralized procedures and policies, it is theirs to run. And I think that's key to maintaining that quality. It's 16 million square feet. There is no way to visit all of them every day or every month or anything along those lines. But setting the policy, setting the procedure, setting the expectations, and then having a team to execute that is how that works for us.
Fantastic. Um, Looking ahead, what's your vision for Warrington PCI's property management platform over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, we want to continue to be the best and preeminent property management company in BC. I see for us a lot of growth on the sort of the multi-residential and mixed use, transit-based real estate. And we'll continue to put effort and strength into those assets as we do with all of them. But we see some growth there. I think there's significant growth on the residential side, and we continue to be very active in the residential marketplace. And then, for me, I want to build an internal pipeline for talent. Like we talked about at the beginning, nobody goes to school and says, I want to be a property manager at the end of this. So, we need to ensure that we build a pipeline and, we attract the right people early on in their career and then help them grow into becoming a licensed property manager with us and maybe eventually in other places. But, it's important to attract the talent and be able to develop them internally.
Excellent. How do you track the talent? I've actually been on a panel. We've done it a few times now with David Little, who has helped design the careers guide. Shout out to him for through BOMA. It looks like a great tool to kind of help give people an idea of what like the steps they need to take to get into the industry and to progress through it. But how do we attract people into the industry where an industry that people are just generally falling into?
Yeah, I think I mean, we ensure that we have a presence at all the various industry organizations, and we're sure that we talk to people there, and that WPM is known as a strong employer, but that really only addresses people who are already in the industry. What we really try and do is attract them at the property administrator level and at the building operator level, and then develop them internally. And that really allows us to attract people from completely different industries, of completely different fields, but if they have that sense of curiosity and that sense of willingness to learn and the sense of, really wanting to sink their teeth into something, then, we can develop them. We can teach them what they need to know and give them a career opportunity.
Fantastic. As a leader in property management, what advice would you give to aspiring property managers? Maybe they're in that administrative role and want to get into it, looking to climb the ranks and achieve similar levels of success as you.
Yeah, I mean, we go back to curiosity. So, go back to wanting to know everything about the properties and the business. So, try and get exposure to, the accounting part, the finance part, the operations part, tenant relations, construction, ESG, the list goes on and on and on. And, make it known that you want as much exposure. Ask why every day. Don't understand something, ask why. Be the toddler we all know that asks why to every comment that's made, because it's a good thing. It's learn. And I still ask why every day. I don't know everything and certainly don't understand everything. So why are we doing this? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Build relationships. Everybody says it, but it's a team sport. We all manage these buildings as part of a team. Build relationships with everybody around you, and then focus on communication, accountability, and follow through. I mentioned earlier, say what you do as you say, because that stands out and it establishes you as somebody who is accountable and who can clearly communicate and who follows through on what they say they're going to do. And then the other thing we said earlier, find mentors, reach out, leaders inside your company, outside your company, try and go to industry events if you can, but reach out, send an email, send a message to people and say, hey, I'd love to pick your brain. Can I buy you a coffee?
Great advice. Thank you. As you may or may not know, I own a janitorial company. And assuming janitorial is one of your largest ongoing costs in many of your properties, how do you look for janitorial companies to work with, and what qualities of a company are you looking for?
You know what? I think it's the same for pretty much all the companies, whether it's janitorial or any of the other services that we procure. For me, part of it is relationship. I mean, obviously, we look at quality and responsible procurement and diversity and the culture within the company. Alignment with our ESG goals, and those are the table stakes, as I like to say. After that, it's a relationship, and quite frankly, there's lots of great companies out there who we work with. The question for me is always who's going to be there at 2 a.m. in an emergency? Where are my relationships strong enough that we can call somebody in the middle of the night and say, hey, help, and they're going to show up, and that's based on building those relationships, and finding good service providers is a two-way street. We on the landlord side need to treat them well, and we ask to be treated well in return. But I think if you have those communications and those expectations, the far majority of the companies step up to the plate.
Great answer. Thank you very much for that. Now for a few fun questions. If you could manage any famous property in the world, what property would that be and why?
You know what? I love New York City. It'd probably have to be the Empire State Building. It's just such an iconic building for me in such an amazing city. That would be high up there for me. But I think in general, being able to manage like an entire mixed use community that's working towards like net zero and implementing ESG goals, and really being able to build a sense of community and belonging for the people who live and work there. I think that would be very rewarding to do that, and could make a pretty significant impact. So, anywhere where it's going to be a challenge, but you can make an impact, I think I would enjoy and continue to enjoy doing, because quite frankly, I think all of us just want to feel at the end of the day as we leave the office that we accomplished something worthwhile that day, that we, took a step forward for either ourselves or for the people around us. So that's high up there for me.
Excellent. Have you been to New York before? Or?
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to have been to New York many times, and it's just, it's such a unique city. It's such a hustle and bustle, and it's such a different culture and different communities. Big fan.
Cool. What are some of your favorite things to do when you're there?
Walk around, just be part of the community and just take it all in, and everything you can do, everything you would want to do, you can do in New York. So it depends whatever the mood strikes, but it's there's always some excitement somewhere in that city.
Very cool. And then finally, if you could recommend any book to your fellow property managers, what book would that be and why?
I think the trusted advisor is high up there for me. Just building on client relationships and client relationship excellence. Um, I mentioned earlier that, we're in the service industry, and building strong relationship with our clients is of utmost importance. And that's not just at the senior level, that's at the property manager level as well. And being able to build like trust-based relationships with those clients is important. And, that book speaks highly around, how you can do that, and how to excel in that.
A trusted advisor. That's what it's called?
Yep.
Okay.
The Trusted
Okay.
Advisor by Meister, Green, and Gelfert.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check it
No,
out. Yeah.
it's a good one. It's
Thank you.
high up there.
Thank you.
And then Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. I think that's how you pronounce it, but
Right. Yes.
it's about creating environments where people feel safe and valued and part of something bigger. And that's the part of my job I probably enjoy the most, is seeing people around me succeed and grow in their careers and achieve their goals, whether that's, individual goals or team-based goals, or, whatever they've set their mind to. That's a big driver for me.
That's beautiful. I love that's what you enjoy most, because that's a pretty powerful approach to, and that's how you build incredible teams. So that speaks volumes to who you are. So thank you for that answer. Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate you coming on. I know you got a busy schedule, and you're a high in demand person. So to have you here, I greatly appreciate it.
Thanks very much, and thank you for your flexibility with the listeners and watchers. Don't know is that this one got rescheduled a number of times before
No,
we finally got to do this. So apologies to you, and thank you for your flexibility through that.
no apologies needed at all, Justin. And wishing you much continued success yourself in Warrington, and looking forward to seeing the continued growth with Warrington PCI. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, and thanks for your time, Jarrett. Appreciate it.
You bet. Okay. Bye-bye.